Hi, I'm Whack.
Hey, and I'm Pat. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Weekly Orbit this week, ending Friday, November 22nd. We got a good show today. We're going to be talking about the Rocket Pool Twitter account. We're going to talk about the rETH discount. We're going to be talking about markets and other things. How are you doing this week, Whack? Hope you have
Yeah,
had a
I'm
good
good,
week.
thanks. Yeah, not bad, thank you. It's been a good one.
Good. Let's get right into it. Let's take a look at markets. We had it looks like ETH and BTC were up overnight. Everything else, not so much, which means bad things for the ratio. Let's take a look at Ethereum right now. It's currently 3,328. All right, and that looks pretty good. From last time I checked, it's up 7% over the last 24 hours. It's up about 5% on the week. And one thing I noticed this week, Whack, is that the ETF inflows have been outflows.
hmm
we take a look at this. If we go back to the 14th of November, we had outflows of 3 million, and then the following day, 60 million. On the 18th, which was Monday, 39 million. Tuesday was 81 million. Yesterday's 30 million outflows. So this marks a reversal. Week before we were over $500 million in net outflows since the ETFs had launched. We had eliminated that, and we are in the plus territory. We still are, but just barely hanging on here. Overall, up 28 million. So it looks like the market is just piling all its money into BTC. From
hmm
what I see, what do you think
Yeah, that's
on
pretty
just
much
on
what's
Ethereum?
happening. Yeah, so it looks
Yeah.
like, we've got outflows for ETH. From the ETFs here, the ratio for ETH hit new cycle lows against BTC. So it really has, taken a beating. I think today though, with the 7% increase on Thursday when we're recording, we should get a positive flow day. And we're still kind of holding on to that positive flow number overall. I think it's just a matter of time before the big rotation into ETH happens, and now it's just a matter of waiting for that. Like, we talked about it last week's show that I think
Yeah.
that's going to happen at the beginning of January. There other people think that it might happen in December. If the rate cut in December, it looks like the Fed are just going to hold rates now. It doesn't look like they're going to cut. But what might happen is that they will say that they're heading into quantitative easing instead of quantitative tightening. So they'll be adding assets to their balance sheets instead of removing them. If that happens, that will normally add liquidity to the markets, and it might be the catalyst for ETH to start moving. If it doesn't happen in December, then the meeting after that is in January. And I think with China putting so much economic stimulus into their markets, the US, I think, will kind of have to follow along with that. And in following along with that, hopefully it will make the environment more favorable for ETH. Now, one thing that's been kind of going around earlier today is that, and yesterday, is that the ETH is actually at second most shorted levels in its history. They're going back many years. There's just so many open shorts for ETH right now that as soon as the price starts moving in a meaningful way, that could potentially cause a liquidation cascade. So I really do think that when the price for ETH does move, it's going to move really big, really quickly. It's just a matter of when that happens, and it might take a month, it might take 2 months, but hopefully at some point within that time we will move, and we'll move fast. So
Right.
yeah, hopefully that'll be soon.
The other thing that happened this week was Bitcoin or BTC got options approved,
hmm
and so that's a whole nother animal. But from my understanding, could increase the extremes. So if the price is going up a lot, it can really give a kind of a turbo boost, and it also does the downside as well. As people are using options and kind of betting against or betting for the underlying asset. Expected that Ethereum will have its ETFs will soon have this as well,
Yep.
perhaps in the next couple of months. And so that's just showing a maturity in the asset that, SEC's first approved the ETFs and then options against or for those ETFs. And of course, BTC was approved first back in last January, Ethereum a few months after that. So, looks like mainstream adoption is quickly happening here with both BTC and ETH. Let's
Yep.
take a look at Rocket Pool or RPL. It's currently at $10.15. For the week, it is about flat. And if we compare this is the chart I like, whack, kind of it zooms out. If this is the 5-day chart, and it doesn't have a 7-day chart, so I apologize, but the 5-day chart shows ETH up 5%, RPL is down about 1.5%. Everyone else is down about 2%. So the everyone else category is everything that is below the top 10 coins in the entire market. So it kind of gives you an idea that this kind of market rally we're seeing is really concentrated, at the top or just with a handful of tokens. We were talking offline before this, whack, about how the road to Valhalla is not an easy one. Everything doesn't go up and to the right all at the same time. If that were the case, everyone would be doing this. You're going to have certain assets appreciate at one time, and then later a rotation happens and goes into another subset of assets. We're seeing that right now with BTC. And then, as we've seen in prior cycles, it then kind of bleeds into ETH, then altcoins. So, this is kind of expected. If you ask me, how would you see the bull cycle go? I would probably say it's kind of would unfold like this, where Bitcoin's a leader, and it's so far that's come to fruition. Any thoughts on the broader market?
Yeah, so the broader market, like you've just shown, right? Like it's kind of flat / sideways / down a little bit, and what's happened is though that is there's certain tokens that are pumping, and what happens is, when that percentage number goes high, then that captures the attention of people, and they're like, oh, the token's pumping, right? And no one follows along with it, so they don't know, what's happening the day after, or the day after that, or the week after that. But they just see that one spike on that day, and they're just like, oh, that token's pumped. Why isn't RPL pumping, right? Like, and in the Rocket Bull community, that's what people are, looking at. They're looking at RPL, they're seeing it's not moving. They're looking at ETH, they're seeing it's going down only against BTC and Solana, and they're just like, why aren't our tokens moving where these other tokens are? And they don't look just that ETH and Sol and BTC. Of course, they're looking at things like SUI and even like Stader's token and Bitcoin Cash today and Slurf and whatever else, whatever's the flavor of the day. But the thing is, every day there's a different flavor of the day, right? And Val actually did this interesting thing last week where he actually showed like Stader was having like a 50% plus day. And everyone's like, what's Stader doing? Like, where did they had a 70% gain last week, and they had like a, 100% gain or something a couple of weeks ago. And it's like, what's going on with Stader? Like, why is it pumping like this? And when you see those pump numbers, you just think it's like a pump on top of a pump on top of a pump. So the price has gone up like 5x or whatever, like, from the first time. However, what you see, like Val pulled up the chart for Stader, right? And this is just an example. And Stader had gone up from where it was before, but that first pump then got retraced a lot. And then it had another pump and that got retraced a lot. They had another pump and that got retraced a lot. And that's kind of what the chart pattern was looking like. And it's, the ticker is SD. What
was it? There it is.
SD. Yeah.
Oh, just SD?
Yeah, SD, yeah. The second one. But like, see, look, now it's down. Like, look, RPL today is up like 3 or 4% or whatever it is, and ETH is up 7%, and Stader is down 8%. But you only see like if you go to the 1 month chart, can you see even on the 7-day there's a big pump up, and then the retracement, and then a pump up, and the retracement, and a pump up, and the price is definitely higher than where it was a month ago, right? Like, that's
165%,
which is fantastic, but it's not up like 500% or whatever people were kind of like imagining in their mind. So I think there's a lot of like bias as well, in terms of like what people are seeing that's really impacting the perception people have of token prices. Now, don't get me wrong, like I was just using Stader as an example here, showing that, there has those peaks and troughs kind of thing. Like RPL hasn't moved yet. Like in reality, it's not really moved. It's up like, 10% from before the election. And a lot of the tokens are up in like that 20-30% range. But I think its turn will come. Like, I don't know when that will be. And until that happens, like, people are just getting shaken out. And like you said, Valhalla is not easy. Like,
it's not an easy
people
road.
Died in honor to get to Valhalla.
You watch Viking, and the road to Valhalla. You get to Valhalla when you die with honor. But that death is, it's hard. It was a hard life back in the Middle Ages, right? Where you had to go out and kill your own food. Your lifespan was pretty short. You'd probably die in some kind of terrible battle. You might be mortally wounded, but not die right away. So you get your limb cut off, but you die. It takes about 3 or 4 days for the infection to manifest itself, and you die of sepsis, a horrible death. But you
Yeah.
get the Valhalla.
Yeah, the path there is not easy. I think that sadly,
Oh,
like that's where we are with RPL right now. Is we got a
yeah,
taste of that a year and a half ago, of what those glories look like,
yeah,
and now we are not in the glorious era, but
not
I'm
yet.
hoping that it will come up again. Like in the
Yeah.
next year, within the next year, hopefully,
Well, one thing
we
that's
should see
certain, if
something.
you've been around markets long enough, Wack, is that there's rotations that rotations
Hmm.
happen. That is one guarantee. There's three guarantees in markets. One, markets go up. Two, markets go down. And three, there's rotations within. And you get, hey, this sector's hot now, and then it has its run, and then people take profits and then go to the next thing, and so on and so forth. So right now, I mean, we were talking about this, I think, last week before, when, hey, remember the time when people were talking about when is the flipping going to happen? When's ETH going to flip BTC? Because ETH was really the BTC ETH ratio was just pumping for ETH. And then, hey, now it's reversed. BT is pounding ETH. So these things
Yeah,
go back and forth. You got to have conviction, though, to get through it, as we talked about last week.
yeah,
That's what Valhalla is about. In the Viking show, it's not only you die with honor, but you also believe in and have conviction in Valhalla, and that's why you live your life that way. So, in
yeah.
any event, let's move on to some news. The one thing that made headlines this week throughout DeFi was this court case that involved Lido. And just to give a little background, as I recall, there was a investor who bought a few $100s of Lido LDO. The price went down and then filed a lawsuit, which kind of looks kind of suspect. We saw this with
Pull together.
Pool Together, where someone bought, well, in that case, it was like $10 worth of Pool Together, and then they sued. And it turned out that person was a ex-staffer at Elizabeth Warren's office. So, in any event, the case had come before a federal court, I believe in California, and the Lido folks were asking for a dismissal of this suit. The judge did not dismiss it, which is not a huge. Most cases are not dismissed. If there's any plausible argument, they'll usually let it play out. So in this case, the judge said, "Yep, let's move on to the next phase." But this kind of brought attention to the whole DAO and it's the liability that kind of encircles DAOs and who's liable for what. So that facilitated a discussion amongst Rocket Pool members. And there was I want to bring this up. This was an interesting tweet thread from the crypto tax guy. And it's a long thread, but what's interesting is the crypto tax guy breaks down this idea of, if you wrap the DAO, wouldn't that help things? And it's like, well, perhaps, but then it also causes other issues, like it centralizes things. You basically have to KYC everybody within that wrapped DAO then, because the wrapped DAO then has to file tax reports and issue K1s to its members. So it's really a kind of a gray, messy area, and perhaps that's why the judge wanted this to go forward, because we need kind of clarity, because the law doesn't, there's no law that outlines what DAOs are, unlike sole proprietorships, partnerships, limited liability companies, things like that. So any quick thoughts about this? I know we're not lawyers, so I'm not going to speculate on this, but just from a perspective from Rocket Pool, what do you see?
Yeah, there was a bit of panic in the community where people are not sure what they should be doing and what they shouldn't be doing. For example, Jasper has said that he is stepping down from his IMC position. He is removing his delegate profile from the page, and he is going to stop asking for money to be coming into his account from the rocket scientists, their ODAO seat. So Jasper's taking steps back instantly. Other people are just kind of like saying, hey, what's going on over here? What do we need to do? Do we need to resign? Do we need to, are we okay? Like, what's going on? Like, what what's the case is if we're not in the US, what is the issue if we're in the US? How does it all work? And Jasper kind of like took the lead on this, and he has set up meetings with different legal firms, or such a conversation with different legal firms. And I think there's people from the community who are going to talk to them and try to get their advice and try to find a path forward, and see what could happen. Now, there's a couple of things like first of all, like just if you get wrapped now, you don't know if it's going to be retroactively applied. Like that's a bit of a gray area. So it might be that, the actions that have already been taken will still count against you as part of a general partnership. The other thing is, will the wrapping even protect you like going forwards? Like, is it something that, will be applicable or not applicable? Will you still be seen as a general partnership? The third thing is that, with starting an LLC, it's not that everyone's supposed. From what I understand, is not that everyone has to be KYC'd, but one person who's like the kind of like the person on the whose name is on the LLC, they'll have to have their name and address and everything listed on the paperwork. So that will be out there. So people could, that person would need to be fully doxed, whoever that person is. There are a few. And I think at the moment, like we're just not sure what's going to happen. So it's going to trial, but it looks like there's a chance that the Lido DAO legal representatives are going to try to keep pushing this back and get continuations for as long as possible before the trial starts. The judge has given them permission to enter discovery now. Discovery could take months or years potentially, depending on how things go. So that is, going to slow things down. And I think the reason why they want to slow things down is because they want some messaging to come out of the SEC maybe, or Congress, to say that the LDO token is not a security. If that happens, then the case kind of goes away, because people can talk about commodities however they want. They're not subject to the same kind of rules and laws. When it comes to so that, I think that there's this idea that the Trump government will be favorable, and as they're favorable, then they will pass legislation or set rulings that will be favorable, and then this case can be thrown out later based on those. So we really don't know what's going to happen, and I think the idea is that just take whatever protection you can, and if it works, that's great. If it doesn't work, then potentially scary times ahead. Like if RPL token obviously is down in price quite badly in the last year and a half against ETH, against the dollar, all of that stuff. So if someone was to set a lawsuit against Rocket Pool, just like they have against Lido here, it would be the same kind of idea. And in that case, we were thinking like who would be liable in a general partnership. So you'd think that, potentially IMC members, GMC members, large voting delegates, like myself, maybe anyone who has voted in any vote basically could technically be seen as a DAO member. And then you have the ODAO members, who could be held liable as well. So there's a lot to unpack here. There's a lot to figure out, and I think the next step is basically that the community, or members of the community, I think, will try to get legal advice, and then try to figure out what the next steps are.
Yeah. And just so we're clear, this applies to like every DAO. It's just not Rocket Pool or Lido. This is Aave. Same thing could happen at Aave. Hey, I bought tokens in 2021, and now it's lower. I'm going to sue the Aave DAO, and so we don't know where this is going. But it's clear that I think some legislation is needed to clarify these legal entities so that there's certainty, and not in the absence of that, this is what's going to happen. It's going to have to be fought out within the court system. Right? Yeah. So, well, we'll keep an eye on that. Let's move on to our next item. This is kind of somewhat related. We had talked about one of the upgrades from Houston was the on-chain voting, and that is now been implemented. There is Langer's put out this post on the protocol Discord. And it says, the team, let's see, following the successful launch of the Houston hotfix, we're thrilled to announce that the PDAO governance has been enabled. Currently, the initialized vote power is 66,324, which is 73% of the total vote power. At 30% quorum, that is 19,897 vote power for quorum, which is workable, but maybe a little high. We will discuss with the community whether this is something we want to adjust. So kind of related to the whole DAO discussion, we're probably farther along than most protocols in decentralizing. And this is one major step in that direction. Do you know, are there gonna be a couple test votes? How's this gonna fold or be introduced?
Yeah, so there's certain parameters that the community, well, the PDAO now will have access to be able to change. That was normally under the bootstrap mode that the team was maintaining themselves, and that will now come to the community. It is very likely that we will have at least one, maybe two test votes. That quorum number, I agree with Langas, is a little bit high. Like, if you go to vote.rocketpool.net, you'll see that, like, in the last few votes that we've had, quorum has been set around 15,000, and we have gone over quorum, but for a couple of them it's been a bit tight. Like, to get to 20,000 might be a bit of a stretch. So it might be that we leave the quorum at 15,000, or maybe we set it at 20,000, like, if we think that we can get those votes. But this is why we would test it, right? Like, we would go out there, we would test it, we would see how it all works out, and then we can actually start, like, doing those transactions online, on chain, I mean, and that is actually going to be really exciting. So some of the early things that we can start doing is distributing money from the inflation and putting those in the right places. So some would go to IMC, some would go to the GMC, some would go to the PDAO, rainy day fund, etc. Those are the main things that I think we'll be using it for. But in the future, if there's ever parameter changes that we want to do, like changing the rETH commission or anything like that, then those will be the kind of things that we could do within the community.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. I think are we the only protocol that has on-chain voting like this, or is it?
No, there's lots of others that have on-chain
Yeah.
voting. So the way that on-chain voting works is that you set the code as part of the vote, and as the vote passes, then the code gets executed, basically. And a whole lot of other places do this. It's not just Rocket Pool. The thing with Rocket Pool that makes Rocket Pool unique is that it's not token voting. So it's not like you hold RPL and then you can vote. It's that you have to have RPL on your validator. And that either you vote with that or you delegate that to someone else. And that is the unique part about Rocket Pool, is that we have the voters who are node operators, whereas with other protocols it's just token voting. So if you hold the token, you can vote. That's the difference.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds cool. Let's move on to our next item. We talked about with the Saturn Zero, it expanded the rewards for RPL to just about anybody who had RPL staked, whereas before there was a 10% cliff. And there were patches working on the version 10 of the reward tree. It was explained that we're not going to have it for, I think last night was the end of the reward period 29, and now we're in the reward period 30. But I think in this thread, just is pretty confident this is going to be implemented this reward period, which will people will see rewards dropped next month in December. Is that right?
Yeah, so there's a bit of nuance here. So the RPL rewards, everyone who has RPL on their node, from last night, the rewards period that just ended, number 29, they should get RPL rewards. So you can go to your node and you can claim RPL. The issue is with the ETH only validators, or actually any new validators after Saturn. The idea was that 5% of the commission would come from the smart contract, and then you would get 5% more, up to 9% more from the smoothing pool, depending on how much RPL you had. So the base commission would be 10%, with that being made up for 5 and 5. Now, what's the problem is that the second 5 of that 10% is what's not ready. So if you have a validator that has ETH only, then or some RPL even, like that has started after Saturn Zero, then you'll be getting a little bit less in terms of ETH rewards this period. That, however, should be fixed by next period. Patches, it looks like, is ready to bring on the new tree version 10 onto testnet any day now. So I'm hoping that they can play around with that for a few weeks on testnet. And once that is done, then for the rewards period in December, I think it's December 18th, something like that. That should be everything should be good. So everyone will get their RPL, which is fantastic. But they will also get that now, and then everyone will get the full amount of ETH that they've been told by the protocol that they will get, and that should be great to see. So the benefit of that for the protocol. Sorry.
I was going to say, those folks who started a validator after Saturn 0, who didn't get in rewards in 29, are they going to see in reward period 30? Are they going to see retroactive reward 29 and 30 or just 30?
No, just 30, yeah. So what's happening is that extra 5% is basically being given to our ETH holders, and we're just going to be like, here you go, guys.
So you get a bit of boost
this one. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Okay, neat. All right, so let's talk about next the Rocket Pool Twitter account. There was a lot of fanfare last week that the team had, through the work of Alpha Growth, worked with Twitter or X to get the account back after it being hacked back in December of 2023. However, there's some in the community who have noticed, hey, this was cool. We got it back, or the team got it back. The last post was this November 7th. All right. And now it's November 21st and it's been silent. So, Whack, I got an opinion on this. I don't think this is acceptable. I think that someone's got to be tweeting out on a daily basis through the Rocket Pool protocol. The Rocket Pool, it's got 46,000 followers. And for every day that goes by that there's not communication about Rocket Pool is a lost day. There's got to be somebody there in the team who should be responsible for this. I don't know why it's gone silent. I know they're in DevCon, but people are on their phones all the time, Whack. I'm on my phone. I know I try to tweet out something daily. Do you have any thoughts on this? I don't usually give opinions, but I feel kind of strongly on this, that we've got a lot of technical people who are doing great work, but we need marketing. We need a narrative out there. And this is the team. It's got 48,000. None of us have that many followers, 46,000 followers. What's going on here?
They were at DevCon. It seems like that's the answer. Like, I've not heard anything from the team about this. I don't have any privileged information or anything like that. But from what I understand is they were at DevCon and they were doing DevCon things, and they were really busy with DevCon and the staking summit and all the other things that went with that. And the bunch of team members got sick. Like, it looks like COVID kind of spread through the team, and the team's not back at full capacity yet. So I think that's the explanation. Like, that has kind of been pieced together. It's not an official explanation saying, hey, like, we didn't tweet for this reason, but it's just like, hey, these are some of the things that have happened, kind of thing. And then you kind of make that inference from that. So I think that's kind of where we stand, is that, this is the fact that the team has, that's the situation, DevCon and being sick. However, I kind of agree with you that, we really should be making more of a push on this account. Engagement has gone down dramatically, and engagement and Twitter begets more engagement. So as you get word out there and you get your tweets liked and retweeted and all that good stuff, then Twitter will show your tweets to more people on their For You page and stuff. And that, the more you keep doing that, the more you do that more, and it's like a virtuous cycle, a virtuous circle. And the problem is that that hasn't started yet. There's some ideas in the community about like the limitations of what the team can and can't talk about on their Twitter account. So that's kind of interesting. I think that there might be a case to be made for the team starting that Rocket Pool Labs account, or just using the Rocket Pool Labs account and actually handing over this account to the community, where we can set up some kind of committee or a group of people who kind of like vet tweets, etc., and then put them out there. That might be one path forward, but I can totally understand why the team might be reluctant to do that. yeah, definitely reluctant to do that. But we need more on Twitter. Like the Twitter is, the main area really that crypto kind of gets the voice out there. And we're not doing that right now, and that's costing us for sure. Like, just in terms of pure engagement, that's costing us, and whatever the downstream impact of that is. So, this is something that I'm sure that the community will bring up with the team at the next call, and yeah, we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, so just in comparison, I'm looking at Lido, and Lido looks like they post just about something every day, and they're at DEF CON as well.
Yeah,
And there's November 15th, November 14th, November 14th, November 14th, November 14th,
yeah,
November
that's when they had the
14th.
Lido Connect Summit. So
Correct.
they're really hyping that bigly.
Yeah, November 13th. Yeah,
Yeah,
so our competitors are doing it. Why aren't we not? Sorry, this kind of bothers me. Let's move on to the next thing. Last week we talked about our ETH, the discount in the secondary markets. We had briefly went down to, but Jasper posted this bye discount, 0.045 discount, which is pretty acceptable. And since then, it's kind of creeped up a little bit.
it's
I
about
had it.
0.2%.
Yeah, 0.268, right, as of this morning.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's bounced up a little bit. It's lower. I think it was about 0.5% when at its highest, or what, 0.6%?
0.81.
0.81, yeah, so that's
Yeah.
quite a bit higher. Kind of related to that is the deposit pool, and let's just take a look quickly. The deposits, again, we had that giant deposit on 18th of November for 2,180. Since then, it's just been trickling in, just kind of become a pattern, and this kind of is related to the discount as well, right? So
Yeah.
explain what happened here.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff you just mentioned. So there was a discount, and then a large node operator exited their validators. They had 370 validators, or 372. That ETH then came into the protocol, and it got arbed into the discount. So as the ETH came into the deposit pool, there were bots that were buying our ETH on the secondary market and then burning it into the deposit pool. So that brought back the peg. We got back to peg. However, what happened then is, as the peg came back, then the rest of the rETH went into the overflow section, and we got like 2,000 or 3,000 ETH in there, which was nice. However, for a few minutes there, we actually even had a premium on the secondary market again, like a very, very, very tiny premium, but that was kind of surprising. So as we were at that kind of sweet zone where, we had some ETH to burn and we had some capacity, then you saw mint. So this was on the 16th, 17th, and 18th, where, you saw minting happening like a good 5 or 6 times more than normal, like maybe even 10 or 20 times more than like the 11th, for example. So there was hundreds of ETH coming in a day instead of tens of ETH coming in a day. But as soon as we went back, as more people burned their ETH, which is their prerogative to do so, then that overflow was emptied out. And then as the people sold more, then it was going to the secondary market. And as they sold, then it made a new discount on the secondary market, which meant that, people would buy on the secondary market instead of minting it through the deposit pool. And that's why we've seen that go back to a trickle. Now, the only way that we'll get deposits happening in the deposit pool is if we get some really big minting happening, and then that will, kind of take arb away the discount on the secondary market and then mint from the deposit pool. So I think that's what happened with that 2070, I think it was.
2,180.
That was the total for that day, but I think it was 2070 for that one individual.
Yeah, that's right.
But that's what would happen, right? Like if there's a large mint, then that would come to the deposit pool. Like we really do need a few of these large mints to happen, because right now the deposit pool has 212 validators waiting, and the queue length has gone up to 12 days. So the person who's been waiting for the longest to get the validators online has been there for 12 days. So it's one of those situations where we need big deposits, and being at peg would help keep things moving. But the fact that we're just a bit below peg kind of makes things happen in, like, fits and starts. And right now we're kind of at that point where we need there to be more deposits. Like, we desperately need more deposits. Like, I think we've got 100,000 plus ETH worth of rETH waiting. If just for those people bond reducing, and still we're stuck with this validator queue, even though it's
Where are
quite
we?
small.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where are we on the rETH growth incubator? I know we had the submissions, and then there's going to be the committee that's going to evaluate. Have they started their work?
Yeah, so the committee started evaluating last week, and they've got 2 weeks to start evaluate things.
Okay.
So they are off at the moment doing their own evaluations, and then I think they're going to share their results with each other. There's probably going to be a call where people who are evaluating will discuss things, and then once they've discussed things, they'll they'll show it to the community, and then that could form the backbone of the strategy that we come up with. So I think, kind of like we did with the tokenomics incubator, which is where we had the ideas, then we had the evaluation, and then the evaluation was presented to the community, and they kind of came up with a cohesive plan, which was the key word from like about 10 months ago. That cohesive plan is what we need.
Cohesive plan.
Yeah, so we need a cohesive plan basically for our ETH minting work. And once we have that, then the community can start allocating funds towards it, make it a priority. We could take money from the IMC, the GMC, depending on what the situation is, and also from the PDAO money, which is got 40,000 plus RPL in there. So there will hopefully be some stuff that we can do. We just need to make sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck and getting those, the best rates of return. And hopefully we'll start doing that in December. I think most likely, sorry, January, most likely we'll have something.
Cool. Yeah, I look forward to that. Wins this week. I'll go first. My win is I had spent some time with some family yesterday. It was really great. And it kind of reminds me of this time of year. We have, in the United States, we have Thanksgiving coming up next week, where, people get together. This year, they'll probably be fielding questions about crypto at the Thanksgiving table. Hey, are you still in the crypto thing? So we got some things to report, but it's good to touch grass once in a while, where I kind of get out
Yeah.
from in front of your computer, and remember the relationships and friendships and family are important in our lives. And in the end, that's kind of what matters most. I've seen studies that say, they ask people who are older, what was the most important thing in your life? And it usually wasn't money. It was your relationships you had in the friendships. So keep that in mind this Thanksgiving season. And how about you?
My win for the week, I don't think there could be anything other than the 500th episode milestone that I hit with Rocket Fuel this week.
Good
And
one.
that was a really nice feeling. There's a lot of positivity around it. People said really nice things about the show, about me. There's a PWAP, which we didn't mention on Weekly Orbit, but it's under trading. There's a thread for the 500th episode. So Sleety redesigned his 100th episode PWAP to make it the 500th episode PWAP. And to be eligible for that PWAP, you just have to write a sentence about what your favorite episode of Rocket Fuel was, or like how or when you listen. So it's been nice. There's been a whole lot of messages in there from people, and it's been really nice for that, hitting 500 episodes, and here's the 500 more.
Yes. Yeah, we'll put a link, if you want to share that with me, I'll put a link in our show notes so folks can get that POAP if they'd like. But that's great. 500 episodes. Matt, did you ever go back and watch your first one and cringe or what?
Yeah.
I know we all do that.
I've done that a couple of times, and it was really cringe. Really, really, really cringe. Yeah, please don't go and watch that episode.
I know. Same here.
It kind of shows me as well, like, how far I've come since then. And I'm really proud of this work with Rocket Fuel. I know it's a really, really small channel, but I don't really do anything to chill it or, promote it or anything like that. It's just a resource for the community, and people value it, and that's what makes me happy. And it's really cool.
Yeah, everyone gets better at it. I remember watching Anthony Sassano's first episode, and he has like 800 episodes.
800 now, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm catching up.
Yeah, yeah, you are. So I watched his first one. You're like, whoa, this looks a lot different than his, the ones he does, currently. So everyone gets better as you go along. So that wraps up this week's show. Thanks for listening, watching, like, and subscribe. Whack and I will be back with you next week. And until then, take care, and Whack, we'll see you.
See you. Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.